Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, my classmates. This first title page is indicating the title that is Forest-Based Climate Change, Mitigation and Adaptation Measures. Studies about the mitigation and adaptation measures for climate based on forest lands. Here is the outline, introduction, for objectives, mitigation and adaptation strategies, forest and climate change mitigation, forest and climate change adaptation, methods for carbon estimation, and conclusion and recommendation. As an introduction, first, forest. What is forest? Forest is a large stretch land or area which encompasses 0.5 hectare, which is dominated by trees, plants, and other organisms in natural environment, which is most of the time intact with or without human interference. And the next point, that is what is climate. Climate is the average weather of a given area or a given period of time. That is defined by National Academy of Science. What is climate change? Climate change is a state of the climate that can be identified by changing the mean of the variable of its property. That is, properties may be climate regarding to temperature, rainfall, humidity, and so on. Persistence for an extended period, typically for decades or a long period of time, more than decades. And climate change is induced from degradation of forest land. When considering climate change regarding the forest land, which can be induced by degradation of forest land, which resulting from various development and other anthropogenic factors. That leads to causes for loss of the biodiversity and increase atmospheric concentration, carbon dioxide concentration in the environment, so that affects the life cycle of the organism. Okay. The global temperature, as it will increase by 2 up to 4 degrees centigrade by 2100 GC, with a range of about 0.8 degrees centigrade up to 4.5 degrees centigrade. Even though it is little, it affects the world's climate, or it can be taken as a risk. The next is from the total carbon sequestration, about 1,115 gigaton in the 3 global forest custom reserve boreal, tropical, and temperate forests, which encompasses almost 49% of boreal, 37% of tropical, and 40% little of temperate forest sinks carbon. The amount of carbon stored in Ethiopia forest is going to decrease throughout the year since 1996, as Fantown said. Different indicators are listed out. Factors for climate change are land use change, forest fire, and degradation. Most of those causes are linked with a function of forest. And analyzing global carbon cycle and predicting climate change helps for the governmental bodies or institutions to take actions or avoid the environmental degradation. which are affected by anthropogenic influences, and so that sustainable consumption and obtaining long-term service and goods resulting for sustainable for living well in the ecosystem between the ecosystem living things and non-living organisms. The objective of this review is, as a general objective, it is to review on forest-based climate change mitigation and adaptation. As a specific objective, to clarify the way of mitigating and adapting climate change using the forest ecosystem. And second specific objective, to show the method of estimating carbon stored in a given forest while we are going to mitigate the climate. As a strategy for climate by means of mitigation and adaptation measures. Before we are going to take a strategy, we have to identify the definition of mitigation and adaptation. Simply, mitigation is lowering to reverse emitted carbon, and adaptation is taking action for reducing vulnerability or risks causing from climate change, so that we have to take an action to mitigate and adapt. The first action is effective institution and governance, infrastructure, innovative investment in socially acceptable and environmentally sound technologies, hybrid species, or other technologies that can be reduce the emission of carbon to the environment. Sustainable, and the other action is sustainable livelihood and behavioral and lifestyle choice, alternative livelihood income or means of lifestyle for a particular community. Best examples that reduce vulnerability to climate change and absorb atmospheric carbon are selecting resistance by Marcy and John. Scholars suggested that selected resistance species is very important for the climate, and selecting or climate or risks, and selecting higher agroforestry species that are important to conserve soil, improve soil fertility, and conserving the biodiversity and other functions. And urban forests that can also incorporate both strategy of mitigation and adaptation, since we can use a tree which are occurring in the urban area as a shed, as a recreation, and other mitigating or climate change resilience as a mitigation, absorbing a carbon dioxide is emitted by or emitted from the carbon dioxide from the vehicle. Today is the first country to terminate its INDC, that is intended nationally determined contribution, in June 2015 with the goal of decreasing 64 carbon emission. 64% carbon emission will be reduced as an intention by the country Ethiopia in 2030, from which forest is the one or the most contributing sector. From the four pillars of the green economy, the protecting and reestablishing forests for their economic and custom service is the one in the best, which is with the forest sector. Other threats are connected with other sectors, not with the forests. Forest and climate change mitigation. Regarding mitigation by means of forest products or lands, that is mitigation by carbon sink using forest-based sectors are available for reducing long-term climate change. So the only and the best option to mitigate the climate is a forest land, so that we have to concentrate or give or provide a great consideration for forest sectors. Avoiding deforestation also may help to mitigate greenhouse emission in short term by reducing deforestation or degradation or fire protection or slash burning, by applying agroforestry and soil carbon sequestration in agricultural soil, and reforestation and afforestation program enhancement. As mitigation tools to store carbon in the forest, planting hardwood tree species on acidic land is recommended. Tree species with selected like carbon-3 and carbon-4 to mitigate low water environments, which is affected by drought. Reducing main deforestation causes for agricultural land expansions. So before agricultural land expansion is undertaken, we have to take a measure for reducing the deforested area. Tropical forests increase rapidly in recent century of 2020s, is stopping for deforestation in temperate zones than temperate zones. So tropical forest is alarmingly reduced throughout the year. So we have to take a consideration more for tropical forests to mitigate carbon or climate change by forest sector. Climate change adaptation based on forest basis. First, what is adaptation regarding to forest sector? It is a process through which society increases their ability to cope with uncertain features or risks which affect the people livelihood or the people way of life, which involves taking appropriate actions for the uncertain features or risks, making the adjustment and change to reduce negative impact of climate change. So people have to be, or the mitigating sector have to be, take a measure for adjusting the and changing the environment which affects the people way of life. There are many options to actively adapt to change climate conditions experiencing from European forests. Sectors are summarized in three ways. The first is stand management. We have to manage the forest based on different use of forest management activities. I think is putting forward the planning measures and policy designs. Then we can take an experience from European forest sectors to reduce the carbon from the atmosphere. Adaptation measures as Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Netherlands in 2018 stated to adapt climate risks resisting the drought conditions, which are considered the forest sector. So the Netherlands government has postulated some points to adapt the climate changes by means of forest sectors. The first one is increasing agricultural productivity, minimizing food security, increasing incomes. While people are getting income from forest, they can withstand the problems or the risk from the climate change. The second, protect human, wildlife, and domestic animals from extreme droughts, taking tolerant species for drought, improve and diversity economic opportunity from agroforestry, sustainable forestation of degraded forest. So we have to consider more economically important and the opportunity which helps the forest that can generate an income or job opportunity for the community and create a diversity movements, corridors, activists, and other scholars have to be take a movement for conserving or creating biodiversity, enhance ecosystem health through ecological farming, sustainable land management practice, and for livestock production. So while we are adapting with alternative means of climate change, we can reduce the degradation, and the adaptation measures helps the mitigation measures to reduce the carbon emission to the environment. Increasing climate change will increase challenge for many adaptation options, so that when climate change increases, the risk also increases. Means of adapting by pupils also challenging, so that pupils have to have a capacity to adapt to climate change. The ability of the system to adjust to climate change may be to moderate potential damages, to take advantage of opportunities, and to cope with consequences can be taken as an adaptive capacity of the community. According to PCC, factors that determine adaptive capacity to climate change includes economic wealth of the community, technology and infrastructure of the country, information flow, knowledge and skill, institutions, quality, and social capital as a factor for pupils to adapt to climate change, so that they can increase their capacity to defend the climate change, while they are economically developed, technologically developed, and the information, the skill, and the knowledge has efficiently transformed. Adaptation is necessary to limit potential risk of unavoidable residual climate change now and in coming decades. So it is very important or necessary. Increasing adaptive capacity by various scholars state that strengthens drought survival strategy of perennial grasses by Marcus, and improving response to ozone of the vegetation by Francisco. So improving response for ozone by resistance vegetation is the means to improve or increasing the capacity to adapt the climate. Selecting soil including tree species for agroforestry special, and selecting up resistance carbon-free plant species to the area where carbon dioxide concentration is higher by Rodel Lesco as a way of reducing climate change risks. The last point, which is considered or concentrate on estimating carbon of a forest, there are 4 methods of carbon estimation. The first one is destructive biomass estimation. The second one is non-destructive, and the third is species specific biomass estimation, and the remote sensing biomass estimation. So destructive method is the one which is most comprehensive and accurate method, because it destructs the forest and exactly estimate the amount of carbon in the biomass and non-woody biomasses like soil. And the non-destructive method is a simple, cost-effective method, because there is no destruction, there is no cutting of a tree. Simply inventory measures will be undertaken and estimating the carbon stock changes throughout the time. To estimate the volume or height of a tree and non-tree biomass using the measure value of the sample is undertaking the undestructive biomass estimation. This method is suitable for both separate and dense vegetations most of the time. The sparse and dense vegetations or forest lands are measuring their forest carbon by non-destructive method. The third one is species specific. This is the only point that concentrate on only the individual species to be deriving its equation, the amount of the carbon, which is estimated based on its model. So the model is mostly used for future projection. Other scholars can be used the model to estimate their commercial plantation forest or other forest types. The total above ground free carbon for 10 As an example, for carbia plantation, 103.6 ton of a hectare per hectare carbons can be estimated for a specific species. For eucalyptus species, 73.38 mega gram of carbon per hectare can be estimated by means of the model. Remote sensing biomass, the fourth one, is technologically and institutionally very advanced, like LIDAR and radar technology will be used, but some persistent points can be happen, like prohibitively expensive. The material is expensive. The skill is technically hard, or it requires technique, detailed technique, requires institutional capacity of a given country. The conclusion from the Ethiopian Green Economy Strategy, protecting and re-establishing forest for their economy and coastal services based for forest sector. So protecting and re-establishing forest is the best strategy for green economy for our country. Adaptation is necessary to limit potential risk of unavoidable residual climates. So when we are considering adaptation, we are going to limit the potential risk of unavoidable residual climate change. So we can adapt it by means of different measures, as we have discussed previously. Literacy, or the illiterate or literate pupils are the factors for the adaptive capacity of community. So it enables people to gather information on climate change. So literate pupils are gathering more information than illiterate pupils, so that the literacy of a personnel of one country is more adapting the climate change than the non-literacy people. Reforestation and forest management can increase together 40 megaton of carbon sequestration of one given forest. The required action for both mitigation and adaptation strategy can be effective institution governance, infrastructure, innovation and investment, and the acceptable environmentally sound technology, suitable livelihood and behavioral and lifestyle choices is a way of mitigating and adaptation strategy. To have forest-based policies and strategy of any country of mitigation of carbon dioxide emission, carbon stock at all levels is mandatory using appropriate data model, data in the model. So the government have to be take an action before the policy and the strategy is developed. So the carbon dioxide which is absorbed by the forest should be estimated. Then after the policy and strategy can be developed. As a recommendation, synergistic effect of adaptation and mitigation strategy is required. So together, adaptation and mitigation strategy have to be incorporated in the international policy interest. So there are developmental, gross developmental programs have to be considered, or Ethiopia, as we know, Ethiopia is accepting the 17th gross developmental objectives. So we have to consider those strategies. There is a great need for capacity building and awareness raising on climate change for the given community. Research is needed on the impact of climate change on different species and ecosystems. And tree resilience, seeds from provenance elevation of tree occurrence need to be used in plantation. So the provenance of the seed provenance should be taken to propagate or disseminate the seed to the appropriate climate area. For adaptation measure, vulnerability assessment is required. So before are going to adapt the environment, to measure adaptation measures for climate change, we have to study the vulnerability assessment. Then we can cope the risk of the climate change. So the vulnerability analysis are needed. Pilot site and pilot project related to climate change are required. Adaptation measures should be determined and implementation as early as possible to climate change impact, because the risk is up to date. So the measurement or take action immediately. While not while the climate changes happened, before the climate changes happened, we have to predict the climate change and adapt what types of measures have to be taken for the climate change or the risk. Various methods of estimating carbon of the forest have to be integrated. So there are various methods, destructive, non-destructive, species-specific, and remote sensing methods. So the method for the carbon estimation should be integrated with another methods to have a clear estimation of the carbon of a forest. Thank you.